Hello everybody, Realm Builder Guy here, and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, but my work travels and COVID and all that kind of stuff are all behind me. All is good, and I got a little bit more time again on my hands to dedicate to the channel and Crusader Kings 3 and making some content for you all. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to hit the like button if you're new. You can also subscribe if at the end of the video you're like, you know what, this ain't too bad. I think I'm going to stick around a while and see what else we see here on the channel. So, as the title already shows, this is going to be a guide about tribes in Crusader Kings 3. In CK3, you have 3 government type options right now. You've got feudal, clan, and tribal. Republics also exist, but aren't playable yet. But again, here we're going to highlight the unique specifics around the tribal form of government. I've played a few campaigns as tribes, and they're always a blast, but they can be frustrating if you don't know what you're getting yourself into. So let's take a look at some of the unique features of playing as a tribe in Crusader Kings 3. So we're starting in 1066 here with Mr. Sviatopolk Ivaslavovich, totally butchered that, of Ruthenia, Rurikid Rus, where this was really the first real playthrough Let's Play series I ever did here on the channel. Dabbled a little bit with Scotland when CK3 first came out, but this one I did quite a few episodes of. The reason why I picked him is because he actually starts as a tribe who is a vassal to a feudal liege, and that'll be important when I talk about reforming. Now, there are significantly more tribes available in 867 all across Europe, as well as, of course, Africa and Asia and the Arabian Peninsula, India, and so on. But also in 1066, there are still plenty of tribes out there that you can find, play with. They're a ton of fun, but again, there are certain things you need to keep in mind. Now, first of all, one of the key things is, over here in the realm, is your tribal authority. Now, you can move this all the way to pass absolute tribal authority, but first you need to take these certain steps. We're going to do this. It's going to cost 218 prestige, and now we are up to a new tribal authority, and the reason why is we can adopt feudal ways, but I'm going to talk about that in a second. I just wanted to kind of trigger that. But you can raise the tribal authority law without having to research innovations, and innovations is very, very important. If tribal authority is high enough, a tribal ruler can reform their government to become feudal or clan. Talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And what I would always recommend is go from, I don't really go to clan, I go from tribal. If I'm going to leave the tribal form of government, I will go to feudal just because I have a ton more options there than clan. I don't really see the big advantage of moving from a tribal form to a clan. There are little things, but overall, I would always aim to move to feudal instead. Another nice advantage of being a tribe is, well, warfare. You have access to the conquest, Casus Belli, or Casus Belli, which can be used to invade a realm with higher rank realms allowed at higher levels of fame. So you can immediately go and try to conquer this county right away. You don't have to create a reason. You are a tribe, and that is reason enough. And we're going to talk about warfare and raiding here in a little bit as well. Now, here is one of the massive downsides, and that a lot of people, and I've even seen comments of late on the channel about, I'm a tribe, and why can't I construct new holdings? The game is broken. No, it's not. That's actually the way this is hard-coded in. Holdings cannot be created in counties ruled by a tribal ruler, even if you have a feudal liege lord. So as this situation is here in Belo Ozero, we cannot create a new holding. And in fact, what we can build is very, very limited. Now we can move up here to a fortified tribal hold, which gives us some advantage. And then we've got a few slots here. We can build war camps, gathering halls, and markets. We can upgrade the palisades up to walls and ditches. But that really is all you can do. You can, of course, conquer different areas that have holdings already in there, but you cannot construct new ones. Development will only affect supply limit, not income. Tax and levy development increase does not apply in counties ruled by a tribal ruler either. So that's another thing you need to keep in mind. Development does not passively grow in counties ruled by a tribal ruler. You must actively invest into it. So you have to actually make the decisions to increase development. But again, it can only happen to a certain point. You're very, very, very limited in what you can do. Tax and levy development actually increases due to your level of fame as a tribal ruler and not how you develop your counties. Whereas if you're feudal, fame is great, but developing your counties is really how you can make a lot of money. Tribal baronies only provide half of their supply limit to armies belonging to other governments. Tribal rulers can only discover tribal era innovations, which are very limited. So if we go down here and we look at innovations, early medieval, anything high medieval, late medieval, these are all blocked for tribal government. Everything tribal is open. But anything beyond that, obviously you can't do it because we're not a culture head, but even if we were a culture head, as a tribe, we cannot do anything past the tribal period. Once you go early medieval, and this is really where your siege weapons are so important. Like I said, siege warfare, very, very important in CK3. And that's where tribes tend to fall very, very flat overall. You can sprawl, you can create huge armies, but when it comes to sieges, the feudal governments will eat your breakfast pretty effectively. Now, when we talk about succession, that's another thing we need to look at here. If you are a tribe, for succession, tribal rulers are locked into confederate partition. See, click here. We can't do this because we are not feudal. We can only do confederate partition. Therefore, you see so many tribal nations falling to pieces really, really quickly. When I did my little time-lapse video, you could see actually the Mongols forming over here. And then within about 20 years, they completely disintegrated. Why? Because they were locked into confederate partition. So what can you do to take care of that partitioning is, well, you try to limit the number of heirs you produce, which you can game in the game, or then when you have heirs and it gets splintered up, murder and conquer your siblings. I did that in Africa with Kush, and it definitely is an option, albeit a less than savory one, but one that did happen. Again, referencing Mongol society after Genghis Khan, or even during Genghis Khan, it happened that, sometimes siblings would get conquered or die, and then the stronger sibling would simply take over. Another thing that you're vulnerable to as a tribal ruler, you can be challenged by other tribal characters for their titles to duels. This hasn't happened to me on any playthrough, and both on camera and off camera, I had quite a few as tribes, but it could happen. And if you're not very, your prowess is low and you're not really good in the hand-to-hand dual combat, that's a quick way to actually end the game for you. Now, when it comes to building your armies, tribal rulers pay for men-at-arms using prestige, as you can see here, instead of gold. But prestige is more important than gold for tribes, since you can only invest so much into your development. So as you invest your prestige here to build up your military, it's great. But your income levels will always be limited because you can't develop really high. So raiding is a very key component of your economy. And that you invest into getting to a certain level of county development. But again, prestige is way more important than gold. I mean, prestige, in my opinion, is probably the most important of any of these resources in CK3 anyway, but it's more important than gold to tribal societies. Just like gold, you could say gold and piety are probably more important than prestige when you are a feudal society. One nice advantage, of course, you can raid as a tribe, which feudal governments can't. Unless, of course, you have a religion that forbids it. Once per lifetime, a tribal ruler can also use the subjugation casus belli. I think if we go back over here, declare a war, you can see subjugate. course, we don't have the prestige for it, but you can do a subjugation war once per lifetime, and I always kind of recommend you may as well go for it if you are in the right situation. Just know that if the opposing ruler happens to die during that time, the subjugation war is automatically ended. For those of you that watched my Kingdom of Kush series, you realize that happened quite a few times. So yeah, it isn't without risks, but hopefully the ruler doesn't die in that time. Ideally not in combat. You're able to capture him and subjugate them, then that's definitely an option. But I would always suggest at least trying it once per ruler's life. Now, when it comes to your vassals, tribal rulers cannot prevent their vassals from declaring wars, and they cannot imprison vassals or courtiers without passing level 2 tribal authority. But as you saw here, we immediately were able to do that, so we can already do that. Title creation cost is really cheap for tribes. It's minus 50%. You also automatically gain a 0.2 monthly prestige gain, which is really key. Again, prestige, very, very important for tribes. Now, the opinion of with feudal, clan, and republic vassals is minus 20. So if you conquer a clan, feudal, or republic nation, then they automatically are at a minus 20 towards you. Tribal vassals do provide taxes and levies, but it's based on the liege's level of fame. So that, again, fame comes down to right here, your prestige. So we are established, progress towards distinguished. Most everybody starts as established. Try to avoid disgrace as much as possible. What you get if you're established, your tribal vassals give you an 8% tax and 15% levies. No knights, secular opinion is 0. If you go to distinguished, it always, every level you go up, your vassal's tax contribution goes up by 8%, and your vassal levy contribution goes up by 15%. So if you become all the way to a living legend, you get 40% vassal tax contributions, 75% tribal vassal levies. You also get 4 knights, and secular opinion is plus 30. So now let's talk a little bit about reforming. If you're going to reform, now here we have one option, of course, in the decision. We can adopt the feudal ways through liege. Click on that, and we adopt the feudal ways. What have we done? Well, we have at least limited tribal authority, or high or absolute, and you have to have an organized faith. Now we are Orthodox, so we're already organized. If you are not an organized faith, again, go back to my Kush series, you'll see it there. We had to reform, and to become organized, we needed 3 holy sites, we needed a high level of piety. We got really, really close, and then a bunch of stuff disintegrated. So it's not easy. It's definitely difficult going that way. It is significantly easier if the tribal ruler swears fealty to a non-tribal liege, as it only requires the ruler then to adopt the low tribal authority and have an organized religion, and you can just easily adopt feudalism. Some tribes already start as vassals of feudal rulers, as you can see here in this case, even within the same family. So what you would do here maybe is do a little bit of raiding, cash in a bunch of money, and then adopt the feudal ways, and then you can, advance as a society. Remaining independent requires the ruler to go all the way to absolute tribal authority and imposes other conditions, mainly around organizing your faith. So if you are an independent ruler, you have to go all the way to the max, to the absolute tribal authority, and have an organized faith. Then can you adopt feudal ways. But even though I would always recommend going the feudal route, because then you can get more development, you can get more innovations, and so on. But what if you don't want to? What if you don't want to reform? Then you must use raiding and conquest to grow your tribal empire, since playing a tall development game simply isn't a viable option as a tribe. Remember to watch your succession. Too many kids equals too much trouble. Now, if you start in 867, you can actually easily stay a tribe until 900, because in the year 900, 950, 900, but the earliest that early medieval becomes available is in 900, but you're basically, It started here as 950, but 900, if I saw correctly, in an 867 start, is when early medieval becomes even available. So there's no point in reforming, in my opinion, if you're starting at 867 until you hit 900. Then you really should take a close look at reforming your government. So there you have it, a quick and concise guide to playing as tribes in Crusader Kings 3. Let me know your thoughts, your questions down below in the comments. Have you played as a tribe? Is there anything that I missed, which I'm sure there is? If not, don't forget, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to not miss out on any Crusader Kings 3 or any other strategy, RPG, you name it, content here on the channel moving forward. So until next time, I am Realm Builder Guy, and I will talk to you soon.